All About Writing with Ben and Sara.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 50, part 4 on our series on Life Top 5. I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sara, who is an award-winning, best-selling author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter.
And I'm Sara, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning, best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher. And today, for our Life Top 5, we've been waiting almost a year to do this. It is horror movies / horror movies we haven't watched / horror movies that have scarred us / horror movies we would never talk about other than here. And we had so much fun talking about this a year ago that we were like, we have to save this because we wasted so much energy just brainstorming about it. And I'm super excited. And I don't know who should go first. But
Well,
I'm really interested to see if we had the same top 5. And
yeah,
I will do a caveat. One of my top 5 is a TV series episode 1. But
that's cool. That's cool.
Anyway.
Let's explain to our listeners right now. Sara and I hate horror movies. We hate them. We really hate them. So, the fact that we were able to amass a top 5 is exceptional all on its own. And I think you're right. These are movies that sort of scarred us. That's really where we're at here, because there's no favorite here at all. So
no, this is the top 5 horror of horrors, and I only laugh as I say this because as we are recording this a year after we talked about this idea, I've been brought on to produce a horror movie as a TV producer, and all I can hope is please let me not have to be in edits. I can't watch this. But if you're willing, I will start with my least horrific of them all.
All right, number 5. And Sara's number 5.
This is my number 5 is Scream.
Scream.
Let's age myself right. I was in high school. No, I had my first boyfriend. This was one of those it came out when there's 29th to 12th graders in a basement and watching this, and I had never watched a horror movie before. It was my first horror movie.
Yeah.
At 14, 15, and I hated it. I didn't like that it didn't have a lot of logic behind it. I got the whole it only works if they can't kill you if you're a virgin kind of bullshit. Whatever. Oh, there it is. Somebody marked this. I swore. And so I think I learned very early on, one, I didn't like that it didn't have a plot, in the way most movies did. And it felt, the killing felt superfluous. It wasn't germane to the plot. It just was kind of gratuitous. There was sex and killing. And the suspense part was bad. It wasn't even it was good music to build suspense. Jaws has good music to build suspense, and you can not be scared because it's clearly a really bad, robot. But in this respect, it felt, I don't know. I think because it was the first horror movie I ever saw, and I will admit I didn't entirely watch the whole thing and spent it with my eyes averted in my, boyfriend of 1 month who broke up with me a month later, his shoulder. I think, but for me, that was the first introduction to horror, and it was also the first introduction to horror without plot. And I think that has bothered me, but I think in a way, horror movies after that, which we will get to, that had plot made them worse. Because then I'm oh my gosh, there's meaning. Now it actually makes sense. Now I actually have a reason to be scared.
Well, I gotta say, solid pick with Scream. I remember Scream, and credit where credit's due. it has an amazing opening sequence. You know, like Drew Barrymore, it was a huge star. We all thought she was going to be a main character. Nope. Killed in the first scene. Like, holy crap. So there was a boldness to Scream that I appreciated. And I don't know why I saw it. I did though. I saw it in theaters. I think probably because I couldn't show weakness in front of the guys. But but um, it's a classic, and there's a reason why it's a classic. It really did. It knew exactly what it was, and it leaned into it so hard. You just can't help but appreciate that.
I think it was transformative of the genre at the time.
Hmm. Yeah, and it's interesting how you described how watching these things in high school with a whole bunch of high school kids together. Oh yeah, I think that's universal to every generation. Like
I
you know,
don't know. Is it now?
I think so. I mean,
Your
my
kids are doing
boys,
it? Okay, there's hope.
they still watch horror movies, yeah. But I certainly know when I was a teenager, how do you get a girl to cuddle up close to you? Well, you put on a horror movie. So I mean, I get it. I get it. And one thing
Oh,
that I realized
did a
as I was
good job. Yeah,
putting together my list, I thought, oh yeah, this is definitely going to age us. There's no question.
it is.
Anyone listening to this podcast is going to know how old we are based
Yeah.
on the movies that
We
we
should
put
like
here.
list our ages in like TikTok or like a
Uh,
ticker. They are this
because
old. Anyway,
there may be some great horror movies of like 2025, but I'm not seeing them, so because I have
we did our time.
no
We did our time.
idea.
All right,
Cool. All right.
yours,
Well,
number 5.
okay. Awesome ultimate pick. My number 5. Here we go. Similar vibe. Okay. My number 5 is Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4, The Dream Master. So, Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, is Freddy Krueger. In case anyone doesn't know, if you're not old enough to know who that is, right? There was a whole series of them. And the reason why I picked number 4 is because it is the first one of the series that I happened to see. We saw it at a drive-in, and it's the fourth one in the series. They weren't that great to begin with, and they were really kind of leaning into the franchise stuff here. But whatever. What it does, what Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, The Dream Master, what it symbolizes for me is all of those late 80s pulpy horror movies that I had to sit through in all of those basements with all of those other teenagers around me, and yes, occasionally all those girls, clinging to my shoulder, right? Because it was just part of the whole genre, the late 80s slasher horror movie. And I chose this one because it kind of represents them all. I saw a whole bunch in the day because that's what you did. Don't remember any of them, but I remember this one. I think because it was sort of the first big one. I'm like, oh, this is a horror movie. Wow. Okay. Ugh. Anyway, so
I mean,
Nightmare on
those
Elm
are classics. All the Nightmare on Elm Street, like those are like cult classics. And I think it's kind of like the Scream mask. Same with the Freddy
Yeah.
Krueger. Like, I think even kids this age, they don that stuff, not understanding the true, like, cult, you know, social backlog
Oh yeah.
of their parents' vibe with it. And we're like, oh, that's cute. I remember being your age and being freaked out about the Scream mask. Like, I mean, and the Freddy Krueger mask and all of that stuff. And it's crazy because in a way, like these things have transcended our generations too. I mean, what I picked and what you picked too. Like they're as close as you can kind of get to cult longevity
Oh yeah.
of horror movies. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there it is. The Nightmare on Elm Street as a whole, Part 4 in particular,
Ridiculous.
representing the whole genre. My number 5.
All right. All right. My number 4 is my one TV show drop in. And I have a reason for this.
Hmm.
So and it is the first episode of the first season of The Last of Us.
Okay. Hmm.
And I laugh only because I watched the video game of this when it came out because my husband had the game. He had a PS3 and he played the first game, and I was like the one who, I'd read the manual for Assassin's Creed for The Last of Us, and I'd be like, "Oh, do this, do this, do this." But and I watched the game because
Mhm.
it's kind of like a mini TV series that was like that it kind of changed video games, even The Last of
Mhm.
Us, because it had so many cutscenes. It was like a mini movie, hence became a TV series. So I knew what happened, like a play by play. I remembered every single scene of the first episode, and they had it on like I've already seen it. It wasn't like it was new.
Mhm.
But for some reason, the way that the first season was portrayed, and maybe because it was close enough to COVID, maybe because I was a mom as opposed to like a newlywed, I don't know. I watched that first episode already knowing what I was going to see. I did not sleep the night after.
Mhm.
Like, I wear an aura ring. Like, it was like you died last night. You did not sleep. All you did was like live in REM, and all I did was relive. I still, to this day, it's been what, they're on like season 3 of that fucking thing. I will still have 2 nights ago, I still had lucid dreams. And I mean lucid as in like if I dream and I wake up and I go, it was a dream at 1:30 in the morning, I can go back into the dream. I can change the dream. I can change what I do in the dream. I can years later have the same dream, change the dream, decide the night before I go to bed, I'm going to change the dream. Like, this lives in my psyche in a way nothing else does.
Mhm.
And um after I watched that first episode, I thought it was a fluke. The way you kind of think a horror movie the first time you see it is like, well, maybe that was just weird. Maybe I didn't really um have a reaction to the horror genre. Maybe it was just the movie itself. I watched the second episode. I had another sleepless night. After that, I stopped watching the episodes and I would only listen to the episodes. And even then, I had to close my ears during parts of it. I couldn't even watch. It was such a visceral reaction to it. And even though I have come up with a scientific reason that like doesn't make sense for like the entire premise of the movie, I can't shut it off. And to
Mhm.
me, a horror piece of horror that can live in your psyche for, at this point, you know, where it invades my lucid dreams.
Mhm.
That's insane.
That's pretty powerful. And that's only your number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I confess I haven't watched it, but that's
Don't.
because
It's
I'm
okay.
of an
You
age
should
and have
probably
been able
sleep.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. No, I said my eldest in particular, he's 17. He's big into horror movies right now. And my wife and I are both like, that's fine. You do you, boo. We are just gonna sit over here and watch our Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something. Just to, just
John and
keep
I
it
are
keep
like, the Gilded Age sounds about our
yeah.
speed, you know?
Man, that's pretty powerful stuff. Pretty powerful stuff.
Anyway,
Yeah. Okay. My number 4. My number 4 is actually the newest movie on this list of mine, which is saying something. And it is from 2002, and it is The Ring.
oh, it's two.
Okay. Well, The Ring, holy crap. I saw The Ring not because I chose to, but because at the time I was working at Naval Headquarters, I was a naval officer, and we had these 13-hour night shifts. And we were sitting at the headquarters where we were sort of in the place where if anything goes wrong, we're the people that they call, right? So anytime that phone rings, it is some crazy curveball that no one has ever dealt with before, and you have to be able to go, uh-huh, okay, I know what to do here, right? Stressful. But if no one calls, you've got nothing to do. And so there's a lot of movies that get watched sitting around. And one of my sailors brought in The Ring. I'm like, oh, whatever. Sure, let's put it on. Holy crap. Holy crap, that is a scary movie. You know? And I try when I'm watching these things, particularly I'm sitting there in a military environment, the lights are all on, there's no girl cuddling up against me.
Lights on. Oh,
Yeah, well, because we're in an ops center, right? And so we're just using one of
yeah.
the big screens, you know. Normally where you'd either watch CNN or you'd have the satellite imagery coming up. Well, there's the ring, and just flooding my vision. And holy crap, like I don't even remember all of it because I think I was actually hiding sometimes. Like my sailors are watching it, and there's me, the officer, kind of, oh, I got work to do. Head down on my desk, got work to do. Jeez, that was a scary movie. And oh yeah, when they're looking at the TV and the well, and that
And like
girl
this
comes out of the well.
part where you think it's over and they're like, why did you bury her? It's worse. You're like, what the? Is it not over yet? I will
Oh,
tell you, you watched it in the light with all your people. It's my number two because I watched that when it came out in college with a whole bunch of like flatmates, my future husband who was my boyfriend at the time, all these people, right? And the music on the big screen combined with like
oh,
the just the tension on that first couple scenes, I hid my face in his shoulder. I wasted the entire $8 ticket hiding my face and my ears, hiding my like I like buried myself like this in his shoulder. I mean, we got married, so he won, right? Like, but that first scene where they show uh must have been like one of the characters dead or whatever. The entire theater screamed bloody murder. I am talking 100 some girls screaming bloody murder. And all I could think of while I was doing this is, I'm so glad I'm not looking because it was like, if they're like, I'm 40 something years old. I have been in a theater during Pirates of the Caribbean where the entire middle section stands up with swords and in pirate gear cheering for Johnny Depp. I've done the theater, but I have never been in a theater where people screamed like
yeah,
they were getting stabbed
no.
all at the same
And
time.
and think about it. We watched this movie in the headquarters.
And
We
then
are
a
the
phone
only three people in the entire building. Sooner or later, I have to leave that room, to go somewhere in the dark. Oh, I don't think I left. I will hold it for 11 more hours. I am not leaving this room unless you're coming with me. Okay, sir. So, anyway, let's park the ring because it's your number two. We'll come back to that.
Yes.
We'll have more
No, it's
more.
fine. I don't need to come back. I exposed my soul. I will tell you my number 3 though.
Yeah, you bet.
And I don't think it's technically a horror movie,
Hmm.
but because there's so few horror movies by choice, and this one mentally destroyed me. And
Hmm.
to be fair, it's not rated. So, um
Well, then you just let
Requiem,
yourself into
yeah,
that. Yeah.
right. Requiem for a Dream.
Okay. I don't know this movie. Don't want to, apparently, but please tell me all about it.
Um, it has an all-star cast. It's a big cast. And I watched it as a newlywed with my husband's best man's wife.
Yep.
So I had to watch it because, that's what you do to sow, solidarity amongst your future, whatever, friends,
Yep.
in-laws. And um, I mean, it's Jennifer Connelly and Jared Leto and um I it, it had a big cast and it's drug use.
Hmm.
And coming from a small town where having sex was almost the absolute worst you could do with your life because Like you can't where I grew up in a village in the middle of nowhere, Wisconsin, like there was no access to hard drugs. There was no we weren't on like the line from, Milwaukee to Duluth. Like we had no access to anything if you wanted it, and I was a goody two shoes to begin with. So like sex was the worst thing you could do. And if you didn't do sex, like then you were like this golden child. And then to watch this movie,
Mhm.
it's drug use, it's sex and drugs, it's all the things. And I, my mind was scarred.
Mhm.
And to this day, the visualization of some of the drug use parts is worse than the horror movies I've ever seen.
Mhm.
Because they're so realistic, because it's so much closer to the truth than a scream mask, right? It's so much more um possible.
Yeah.
And 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 in a way, because of how scarring that movie was, even though it's not a traditional horror movie, the scar tissue because of it, to me, makes it a horror movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Slasher films are a certain genre, but when you get into stuff that is realistic and like that could
Psychological horror.
actually happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no,
Yeah.
that can be really scary. I know Emma likes to watch a lot of police procedurals, and some of them, particularly the British ones, can be really brutal in what happens to like prisoners or torture and so on. And I just have to leave the room when that stuff is going on. So I get it. If stuff is like a slasher film is scary in a certain way, but it's so ridiculously unrealistic that you can walk away from it and kind of laugh. But a movie like that, like Requiem for a Dream, like ooh, that's not too far away from reality. So that can be scary in its own right. Totally get it.
Yep. Don't watch it unless you're
Nope.
drunk.
Nope.
Do it after this.
Already forgotten. No, it's all good.
Okay, you're number three.
My number three. Okay. Which is different. Certainly not like Requiem for a Dream, but is uh, very grounded, shall we say. It is the only science fiction entry on my list, and it is 1979's Alien.
Oh my God, really?
It is like the original sci-fi horror movie.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's the classic, a bunch of people stuck in an isolated place, can't escape, and there's a monster killing them all. And it came out in 1979. Somehow my friends had a copy of it in 1979. And just in case anyone was wondering how old Ben is, yeah, I was 6 years old. And I watched Alien when I was 6 fucking years old. So
Oh my
you want to
God.
talk about a movie that will scar you? Like I'd seen Star Wars. I love sci-fi. This is great. Let's watch spaceships and lasers. And no, let's watch this most horrendous alien creature ever devised. First, take somebody's face and plant something in them which bursts out, and then this monster hunts them down one by one. Holy crap! You want to talk about emotional scarring of a child? What were my parents thinking? Is what I have to say. Is that they let us watch Alien when I was 6 years old. So,
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
I've seen Aliens, like the sequel,
It's
right?
late, but I saw it in high school and it was like number three. Like, what?
Yeah. No, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I saw the second one, which was made years later. It was James Cameron. It was all like, the Space Marines are going in to shoot up the aliens. The whole like, let's rock and all that. Great action movie. But Alien, the original by Ridley Scott, was a horror movie. Full on. It was basically a bunch of truckers trying to fight this invincible monster, that is immune to all damage and bleeds acid and smashes your face in as it eats your brain. So holy crap. Yeah. I remember when Prometheus came out a few years ago. It's like a prequel to Alien. And a friend of mine asked me if I wanted to go see it, and I was like, honestly, dude, the original Alien scared the sweet bejesus out of me. Like, I still cannot watch those movies because it scarred me so much. So yeah, that's my number 3, Alien.
Wow. I mean, I will say I watched, I think it was 3.
Yeah, and when they're in the prison.
Maybe it's the one with the mother and the baby comes out of the mother and like it's Sigourney Weaver and she whatever. I don't even know. That was another high school.
They become all the same after
Yeah,
a
all the
while.
things. So I don't know. I stopped paying attention. And honestly, like I'm my number 3 is The Ring, which we've covered. I will say for me, Alien was not as devastating as you make it out to be, but I also saw it as like a 17-year-old, and I also did not see the first
Not
one.
a 6-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna. I mean, I can't. Mean, I'm trying to think how old my youngest was when he saw like the Lord of the Rings movies because there's a lot of killing. It's not gory, it's not graphic, it's not bloody, but there's a lot of really scary orcs.
Yeah.
I know we spent like we doubled the movie length because we would pause it and we would explain movie magic and how swords worked and fake swords and we would pull up green screens and show how things were made and I don't think I destroyed my youngest, but he was definitely way too young for some of those, but I also had an older kid and I was like whatever. Alien is like not even on the list. It's not even on the hit list for my 14-year-old. Like they're intense.
Yeah. And that's just it. It wasn't just the violence of Alien.
It's
Like
the
the
it's intense.
suspense,
Yeah.
and like you are going to die.
Yeah.
Like, oh, and it's just, I mean, the horror of it too, of the first thing, the thing that goes on the guy's face, right? That's
Yeah.
pretty horrific right there.
Face, yes, it's like a dual.
And
Yeah.
he's this helpless victim, right, to this whole thing. You talk about taking away somebody's agency. There you go, right? But then the thing bursts out of his chest, right? Which again at the time was like mind blowing for special effects, right? Like
Right.
no one had ever done that before.
Right. Right.
But then the rest of the movie is just this slow burn, hunting them down one by one. These just innocent folks who are just trying to do their job and are getting killed by this thing, this malevolent evil, which is an alien. So my number 3.
I you took my number 2. So what's your number 2?
Okay, my number 2
Better not be
is,
my number 1.
oh, I hope not. My number 2 is The Silence of the Lambs.
Okay. 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 We're fine.
Okay, so The Silence of the Lambs. Here we're talking about psychological thriller.
Hold on. Have you read the books?
No,
Ah.
I didn't need to because I saw the movie.
Okay.
So the movie, I mean,
The
credit where
books
credit.
are worse than the movies. Just
The
gonna say that.
worst. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
The
the
books
movie
are worse.
the movies are actually quite good because I mean Jodie Foster's so amazing.
Yeah.
Anthony Hopkins was so amazing, but Anthony Hopkins was actually very sort of clean in the movie, right? He was psychotic and he was clearly dangerous, but you never really saw him eat people in the movie, right? It was all the hinting of what
Well,
to do.
because the only person dealing with human flesh was someone outside of the prison. So it
Yeah,
was
well, then
removed.
there's Buffalo Bill. Yeah, and the
Mhm.
whole, it puts the
Mhm.
lotion on its skin or it gets the hose again.
Right.
Yeah, horrific stuff. I saw Silence of the Lambs in the theater, and I remember I went with a bunch of friends, and we didn't plan it this way, but it just so happened that it was two couples and me. I happened to be single at the time, and that really sucked because I remember I sat in the middle of five, and
And you
one
had
couple on one side of me,
nobody.
yeah, they were huddled together the whole time. On the other side, they were huddled together, and there was just me in the middle. Oh man,
So
watching
what
this
you're saying
movie.
is you need to watch this again with your wife of many decades.
Yeah, I don't think Emma's up for that. I really don't. But ugh. But man, I mean, brilliant movie. Silence of the Lambs. This is why it's number 2 on my list because it is such a quality movie. It was so well written, so well acted, so well directed, and just horrific. Just like you talked earlier about Requiem for a Dream, it was so close to reality that like this could happen, you know, and it's just unimaginable, but it could happen. And that's the horror, is that basically they're using one psychopath to catch another psychopath who's in the middle of psychopathy, you know. Um, it was just numbing. Like it was so powerful. So Silence of the Lambs, my number 2.
And read the books.
I don't think I want to actually.
I'm just saying the books, especially the ones after the silence, like they're a whole vibe. All right, I will do my number one for
Okay.
your number two. My number one is Seven.
Oh,
See?
yes. Yes. Oh, what a horrific movie.
I know. Oh.
Oh, wow. 7. Yeah. Oh,
I walked into that blind, not knowing what I was watching.
oh yeah.
Again, college, when
You
I
just
was
thought, ooh, Brad
stupid.
Pitt. Ooh, here we go. Yeah.
Right? You're
Yeah.
like Morgan Freeman. He was right. No, no, bad, terrible, terrible. I mean, to me, the the two worst parts of that movie were the very early scenes where it was the overweight guy who had overeaten and like
Sloth.
exploded. Right.
Oh yeah. Oh
The no,
yeah. Ugh.
no, it was gluttony.
Oh, gluttony. Sorry, gluttony. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Gluttony,
Gluttony.
because Sloth was the other guy. He was like
Right.
not the banker who'd carved himself with his flesh. It was the mentally handicapped person who had been like kept alive with his hand chopped off for a year. And you walk in and you think he's dead, and then he breathes, and I lost my shit. That movie was so psychologically damaging on so many levels.
Yeah.
I mean, and I kind of like weighed this. Like Requiem for a Dream was also very psychologically damaging, but Seven was maybe worse. Like in the end, it's for me as we're talking about this, like it's not even like a traditional horror movie because horror movies, once you've seen one or three, I don't want to say they're a dime a dozen, but like there is a pattern and a rhythm to a traditional slasher film. It's the effed up horror that lives with you for decades
Yeah. Oh
that
yeah.
is in a way worse.
Yeah. That people
And
got themselves into these situations and that somebody did this. Yeah.
yeah, and the fact that you can recognize how possible these horrendous things are to happen in real life.
Yeah.
That's worse. Like in a way, seeing some guy in some crazy mask coming at you with a knife, it's like, all right, cool. I like that's it's a different category. I don't know. I first for me it was like it was Seven and Requiem for a Dream and The Ring, but you know, The Ring is more classic in terms of horror
Hmm.
genre, but yeah, I Seven was before any of the others in terms of psychological horror, and for me I think that's more jarring than anything else, and I struggled to watch what I did. I would never watch it again. As someone who has a I don't even know if you know this about me. I have a almost 100% photogenic memory.
Really?
And yeah, to the point like I can tell you the font and the color of the paper of my ninth grade geography books, like or my eighth grade like I can tell you the covers of the movie of The Living Dead I saw in 1991. I could sketch it out to color. And so when I see things like these, they're burned so viscerally that they're very hard to let go. And this was one of them that I never need to see again, and I could replay it almost play by play. And it's horrific.
You should not watch horror movies.
I know, right? I can't even look at their covers, and they're ingrained in my mind. It's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, credit where credit's due. Seven was a great movie. Like, it was very well done. Like, it was a masterpiece.
Yes. Go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no. But terrible. Terrible. Horrible movie. Yeah. Who are these people and what do they get off on making this crap? But anyway. Alright. Okay. I'll bring us home with my number one, if you're ready. Okay. My number one is actually not the most famous movie ever. It is my number one because of what it did to me. So, my number one is the 1987 classic Prince of Darkness. Prince of Darkness, anyone who doesn't know, it's a story of a bunch of researchers who go to this church who think that there's something weird going on in this church. And one of them keeps having dreams which are someone trying to talk to them from the future to show them video of what's about to happen. And it keeps going on through the thing. And it is basically Satan trying to come back to the world to rule the world. That's what it is, right? It's, in a sense, it's sort of classic 1980s horror schlock. But it was very well done. And I remember I sat there in a basement, somebody's basement with like 10 of us, and we're watching this movie, and we're all laughing the whole way through, and I thought, oh yeah, this is just a funny, stupid horror movie, But as I tried to drive home that night, let me tell you how much it got into my head. There was one thing in the movie, mirrors. If you could sort of reach through the mirror, like you could sort of, you could get pulled into the netherworld, or you could pull the demons or the devil out to you in this world, right? So mirrors now are just out of bounds. And I'm trying to drive home, and of course there is a rear view mirror in my car, right? And I do not want to look in that mirror because I'm afraid of what I'm going to see coming back. And I thought maybe I'll turn on the radio. But all I imagine in my head is the voice from the dream. This is the year 1999. And I'm like, nope. Not driving, not putting on the radio. Drove home, got to my parents' place, came in the door. You have no idea how many mirrors there were in my parents' house. Let me tell you, they were apparently everywhere on every wall because I could not look anywhere without seeing a mirror. And I'm just like trying to come through the house. And I guess I was making some noise because I must have woken my mum up because I was just getting to the bottom of the stairs and I looked up the stairs. My parents are fast asleep at this point. There's a figure at the top of the stairs.
Yes.
There's me. And there's my mom. Are you okay? And I get back up to my room. I had a little mirror in my room. That went on the floor in a big hurry. Holy crap. And it's funny because when we watched the movie, we were laughing the whole way through it. Oh, this campy, stupid movie. Ah. But my goodness, did it get into my head. And I mean, that was 1987 is when Prince of Darkness came out. I saw it maybe
We'll go watch it. It's all good.
Yeah. You'll probably think it's the cheesiest, campiest thing. I don't know. I have not watched it since. So I can't tell you whether it's actually, super cheesy or not. But you talk about movies that have an effect on you. Yes, Prince of Darkness. Woo! I'm still a little afraid of mirrors at night because of that movie. Okay,
I think the
good.
moral of the story is neither of us are going to write the horror genre.
No, nope. That is not my thing. No, I like it when everybody keeps all of their body parts and everybody keeps their souls inside their bodies. And
Nothing's bursting out. No
yeah,
one's eating them. Everything's fine. No,
yeah.
I do think from an artistic point of view, and I know you do not love my Seven Nights in the Dying Castle book because there is food horror, as I've been
Mm,
told. I didn't know that was a thing. Food
food.
horror.
Nice.
Um and other kind of like more horrific elements. Um but I think that diving into the things that bother us as we get older can make way for some interesting, creative points of view. But in the meantime, I'm still not gonna go and watch The Ring or Seven or any of this stuff. Oh, oh my god. Yeah, that's that. I've had too much wine. I'm done.
Woo! Okay, well, thanks everyone for listening. We appreciate you all helping us work through these things. I think we're going to call it there, and that's our show for today. To all our dear listeners, when you finish scaring the crap out of yourselves by watching these horror movies, um, don't forget to let us know what your favorite horror movies are, but also don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our chats. Feel free to leave a review because it really does help us a lot. And if any of you are looking for help with any aspect of writing your horror movie, then we recommend our friends at Cascadia Author Services. You can find them at cascadiaauthorservices.com. And you can catch up with Sarah with total non-horror posts at sarahdahlman.com and on Instagram.
And you can find Ben at bennettrcoles.com as well as Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much for joining us today on our crazy top 5 horror movies with wine. And please reach out if there's any topics you want us to cover, or maybe if you are interested in hearing about our top 5 something else that we haven't thought of. Otherwise, we will see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sara.